Okay, just a quick video to talk about solar controllers. In this case, we're going to look at the Victron Smartsolar MPPTs. A few things you need to know about them. They come in two basic types. One is the TR, which has screw terminals for your PV connections. And the other one is the MC4, which has MC4 connectors for your PV terminals. Usually they have 2 or 3 sets of MC4 connectors. Now they're just connected together inside the unit and paralleled. They're not separate controllers. The positive on the unit will always be the female connector, and the negative will always be the male connector. On this unit they are actually marked, but helpfully Victron don't always do that. So remember that the connector coming off your solar panel will always be positive male, okay? And the negative coming off your solar panel will always be female negative, all right? Next thing to know is that there are a couple of numbers on the top of each controller. First one is the most important, and that's the maximum voltage that this controller will accept from your solar panels. That's an absolute maximum. You cannot exceed it. If you exceed it, it will probably kill the controller. You need to allow about 10% of headroom. This is because in winter, it's very cold. The resistance of your cables is going to drop slightly and you'll get a bit more voltage through. So giving 10%. On the 150, 3 kind of 400 watt panels are going to put out about 120 something volts. So you're within the limit, but that's as much as you can get on. And on the 150, sort of 2 500 watt panels, will give you about 100 volts. So you won't get 3 of those on there. You definitely get 2. On the 250, again, you're going to go to about 220-ish volts. The second number is the amount of charge in amps that the controller will put out at most. Usually the amperage that you can take in from panels is slightly higher than that, but use that as a guide. And again, you don't want to be going, don't go overboard on it. The next thing is cabling. Now in the manual for every controller, which you'll find on the Victron website, it specifies the cable size, maximum cable size, and my advice is to always use the biggest cable that the controller will accept. In the case of most of the bigger controllers, that's 35mm squared, and that goes down to about 10mm on the very smaller controllers. But always use the biggest you possibly can. Keep the run between the controller and a fuse. In this case, we have it fused into a links distributor. Keep that as short as you can. And on the PV side, you would typically use, if you're using single strings coming into the MC4 connectors, so each string is usually providing whatever the amperage of the panels is, and they haven't been combined, then 6mm probably. Any more if you're combining strings by running them in parallel, then you might put bigger cable on, so 6 or 10. One thing to be very careful of is that you get the polarity of this right. Check it and double check it before you switch on, especially the PV. It's a very common cause of failure. People think they've checked it and they haven't. Use a voltmeter. Test if you have a switch between your PV panels and your controller. With the switch in the off position, test the polarity that's coming in from your panels before you turn the switch. Follow the cables back. If it helps, mark the cables and make sure that you have the polarity right. Same for the battery. If you get it wrong, the results will be immediate. And again, reverse polarity is not warranted. So you cannot get it wrong. And it almost certainly will break the controller if you connect them the wrong way around.